After the election, nothing changed in Niagara's ridings, all four incumbents receiving another mandate by voters. St. Catharines MP Chris Bittle heads back to Ottawa after beating Conservative candidate Christina Waller by 3,000 votes. Chris, congratulations on your re-election. How difficult was it to campaign during a pandemic?
It was a new challenge, but St. Catharines residents were still pretty welcoming. We did a little different, knocked on the door, take a few steps back, wear a mask, and I was actually surprised by the number of people who were still wanting to come out, wanting to chat, and it was still a positive experience, even though walking around in a mask when it's over 40 with the humidity is a different challenge, but we still spoke to a lot of residents who were eager to engage.
The results this year a little bit tighter than 2 years ago by about 2,000 votes. What do you attribute that to?
Well, we've seen that across the province in terms of our support being down a little bit. I think there's some COVID fatigue, but at the end of the day, the people of Ontario and the people of Canada were behind the Liberal government. They saw what we did during the pandemic, saw our plan, and sent us back with a similar number of MPs, not only in Ontario but across the country.
I know from talking to you since your first win in 2015 that you are a big admirer of Justin Trudeau. He took a lot of heat for calling this election. How did you deal with that at the doors?
Well, I explained to people what the reality on the ground was in Parliament, that I understood that during a pandemic, the challenge of dealing with it, but I point out the fact that I believe it was 8 other provinces and territories had run successful elections during the pandemic, and also that during the last 6 months that we've sat in Parliament was the most toxic that I've ever seen it. And though the opposition talked a great game about we need to work together, the reality didn't exist on the ground, and that regardless of the outcome of the election, voters had to give Parliament a mandate and had to knock our heads together to get back to work and do the work that they expected of us, because things had ground to a halt for the last 6 months of 2021.
Chris, toxic was the word you said there, and that was a theme during the campaign. Large crowds showing up, heckling the leaders, heckling candidates. We had rock throwing, we had obscenities, and also social media being used to name call candidates. You yourself were a victim on your own personal property. How do we make sure that this doesn't happen in future elections?
It's going to be a challenge, and it's difficult to say what the government can do. I think there's some things that we can start to deal with. One thing is the unregulated nature of social media. And on this medium, we are regulated. Your TV is a regulated entity, but we can say whatever we want. You can ask me whatever question you want. I can say whatever you want with the protections of the Charter, with the protections of free speech. But for some reason, we're letting people like Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook escape that and allow hatred and violence and racism and conspiracy theories to spew unencumbered on or along their networks. And that's a problem that needs to be addressed. We did have some bills before Parliament in the last Parliament, which didn't get through, but that's one tangible thing that government can do. I know people are concerned about it.
Chris, it won't be long before Justin Trudeau announces his new cabinet. Any chance we're going to see you or another local representative, Vance Badaway, in a cabinet post?
I don't know. But one thing I do take pride in is that you don't need a title in front of your name to get things done for the residents of your riding. And it's something that I know Vance and I have been working hard with over the last 6 years to deliver on major projects. And I will serve in whatever role the Prime Minister deems best. But ultimately, I've been elected by the residents of St. Catharines to be their Member of Parliament. And I can tell you the number of times at the doors that people have asked me about being Deputy House Leader or Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of the Environment has been zero. They want to know what I'm getting done for St. Catharines, what I'm getting done for Niagara, and that will always be my priority, regardless of the position that I hold.